this harmonic balancer on here is supposed to have some rings in here that basically just tap on it and it comes off, and it did. How about that? But what it's got is some compression type rings that sets everything in place. Kind of a tapered setup, I guess. What's interesting to me, okay, there is a locating pin there, dowel pin. You can see this front seal's been leaking also. I've got another water pump for it. I'm going to pull the front gear cover off. Water pump. Okay, I think I got all the bolts out of the oil pan. I'm going to try to drop it down with the floor jack a little bit if it moves. And it does. Now, at this point, I'm going to have to raise it back up. I didn't quite get it high enough. So we can get the pan up lower. So I'll give you guys a first look inside the oil pan. I wouldn't say it's just super gritty or dirty. Of course, this thing was burning through oil like you wouldn't believe. It was burning at least a gallon a day. It was getting worse. That's one reason I pulled it down. I just couldn't stand to see it go to the point where it just cratered. That's not a good, it's never a good ending for an engine. There's the oil pump. This is the balancer. These 4-cylinder engines run a balancer because of the way the book describes it. There's a speed difference between the top half of the stroke on the pistons and the bottom half. And since they run in pairs, they don't balance like a 6-cylinder. A 6-cylinder engine will pretty much balance without the need of an external balancer. But the balancer has me a little concerned. I hope it's not wore out. I hope, you know, there's some parts for this engine might be a little bit hard to come by. Oh, lost that one. Okay, probably need to go in that bucket anyway. There's that thing. Go ahead and pull injector hold down bolt. probably get the injectors tested. And I'll probably use diesel, turbo diesel. Used to be Hank's turbo diesel. They've done me good. They're always good on price, good people to work with. So the injection stuff I've noticed on this machine is a lot metric. But apparently International made the Germans use standard threads on the hardware on the engine. So far it looks like it. Ten millimeters. Come on. Lost that one. Apparently that one wants to be lost. But the injection, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the story on the injectors. I'm sure they were pulled out when the head was, but that doesn't mean it was actually, I don't mean they were rebuilt. It basically just means that, well, they got removed and installed. So I don't know that history. There's another bit we can get out of the way. And I've noticed that they put a wedge underneath every one of these hold downs. Now I don't know the story behind that, but apparently they needed something to tighten them up a little bit more. I don't think that's a factory item. So now, to pull those out, give them a little twist first. Yeah, we know they're loose that way. Pulling them out might be a bit of a trick. See what size this nut is here. Sure they're metric. Bigger than that. That might work. Oh yeah. Not that bad at all. That one has been getting dirt down in the hole. Probably lucky it came out of there. Somebody didn't put the right sealing ring in the top of it. Same with that one, it's full of dirt, moisture. Yeah, it don't look good. Injectors might be toast, I don't know. We'll see. And these are solid tubes, so they're not real likely to crack, but they should have a consistent sound. If they're cracked, they won't. Oh, darn. That one went all the way down. Okay, we got to figure out where it went. And in the magnet. The thing might come out the bottom of the engine, I don't know. Yeah, I got a hole up there, I think. Yeah, my magnet just ain't strong enough. Well, this is dumb. I shouldn't be fishing the first day on the job. That's right there. Problem is my magnet won't let it come out. Turned into a 2-magnet job here. All right. I think. All right, push rods are going to be stashed over here. And I'm going to have so many different parts and pieces to wash and clean that, yeah, it's going to be a good time. that I've got holding the engine up here. And somebody lost the spacer off of one side of that. Circle toward the center, and we'll start out over here. Well, I gotta get the right socket. How about that? This wrench might not take these leads, so I don't know if it will or not. Probably not. I did. How about that? I got that one out. Didn't even gonna get that one out. Okay, let's get an air tool over here. Sometimes you just can't do air power. That's it. A lot of head bolts. Should anyway. Alright, heads off. Well, I dropped a lot of dust in it when I pulled the injectors. Cylinder liners are wore pretty good, I think. Crosshatch is gone. You can kind of see some of the crosshatch in that one above where the rings go, but I'm sure just looking at the pistons, especially number one, I think it's probably eat up worse than the rest of them, but those must be pretty hard liners if they can withstand eating dirt. So, okay, so kind of clean the head up a little bit, or the block, top deck, whatever you call it, not the head. Cylinder liner protrusion is supposed to be 3 to 4 thousandths of an inch, and I checked it with my dial indicator just kind of roughly, and it seems like it's within specs. It seemed like it's about 4. But like I say, once I put new liners in it, that is going to change. I just wanted to see where we're starting out at. Liner protrusion is important on a diesel. If this is not within the specs, your head gaskets will not seal. So you got to have you got to have a good deck to work off of. I think I've got a good one here. I think we're in good shape. At least I hope so. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the teardown on the torque converter. Okay, so I've got the harmonic balancer apart. And these are not available. Can't find one anywhere. I've called Case, I've called Komatsu, nobody's got one. I did find a guy online, and he is in Oregon, I believe. I'm gonna ship it to him, and he's gonna rebuild it for me. And he says he puts a guarantee on them. Now, one of the things the book shows is checking the backlash on these gears. We got the oil pump down here at the bottom. See this has got like a little tapered bearing. Looks like you can adjust tension on it. And then we've got our idler gear, and then we've got our camshaft gear. So book says to check your, I don't know why. I guess I'm gonna check those though and write them down, but everything looks pretty decent on the gear train. I mean, everything's fairly tight. I've got the side cover off the tappet side or the cam side. Cam looks decent. I don't know. I haven't got into the bottom part. I've got the torque converter off, and like I say, I'm contemplating whether to have somebody go through that or whether to go through it myself. But I'm at the point now I could pretty easily pull the flywheel. But I'm gonna need to lay it on its side before I can do any work on the pulling the pistons out, I believe. Yeah, anyway. So I've got the flywheel off. Here is a view of the leaky rear mainsail. Engine oil coming out. You can see it was a pretty good leak. It dripped out of the hole in the bottom. Anyway, yeah, that was, there's only one way to get to this, and that's where I'm at right now. Pulling this apart. So that needed to be fixed along with everything else. Forgot to record this. I got I got the pistons out. Show you. That's the bottom rod bearing. Don't look awful, but doesn't look good. Top one, as you can see, it's ready to be replaced. That's getting through the bearing material. Good news on this engine is it was rebuilt, looks like 4 of 84 according to the number on the bearing, and these are standard size, I believe. We'll be measuring the crank. Pistons, on the other hand, are, what would you say, sanded? Just not real pretty when you get sand in your engine. Those are some heavy duty rods. I mean, just super heavy duty. So just kind of, I got the back cover off. This engine's got an odd little piece that goes in here for a pan spacer. It bolts to the actually it goes like that, but it bolts to the seal housing on the back. Seal housing's off. A little bit of a problem I see here is this groove in the crank. Speedy sleeve maybe. Although the book does show a procedure for setting this seal at a different location. I think it's got 3 different places you can set that seal so you can get a new wear surface. Pretty good idea, I think. But I'm kind of impressed. This engine was rebuilt in '84. The crank, You know, it's not just real, it's not perfectly smooth, but it's in pretty good shape. Just looking at it, looks pretty good to me. I've seen a lot worse. And I'm hoping the sand stayed mostly on the top side of the pistons. Kind of appears it got some in the bottom too. Bound to have. I did pull one of the oil rings out, and it's pretty soft, not real springy, bendable, but also just wore smooth out. I mean, if this engine hadn't got sand in it, the person probably could have put new rings in it and new bearings and ran it, but I ended up breaking it. But I was just kind of bending on it to see if it was, I mean, these are probably made out of cast iron, but when they get hot, they kind of lose their tension, I guess. They do have a backup here, but I think they're just wore out, honestly. So it's not looking so bad so far. Yeah, it's just kind of going a little slow. I'm a little slow. And I need to probably get organized here and set up another table or two so I can set some parts on it and start doing some measuring. Really, I should have washed the dozer before I brought it in the shop, but I didn't. It's hard to wash all of this stuff off, but I could have got it a little bit cleaner than I did. Still not sure on the torque converter, what I want to do with it. Since it's out of the tractor, it's almost, I'm almost thinking, you know, it probably hadn't been out since '84. Maybe we should reseal it at this point. I don't know. Kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, we're probably looking at another, I don't know how much it costs to go through one of those, but the torque converter was working great. But my fear is if I lose the seal on it, which the seals are pretty brittle on the engine, they're cooked. I mean, they just don't last forever. You can see that had been leaking pretty badly. It's where I was losing a little bit of motor oil. Not all of it, but a good amount. The balancer set up, I've got it in a bucket here. This thing appears to be in really good shape. I'm probably going to go through and kind of go through the specs in the book and see. But the gears look good. I don't think I'm going to need to worry about trying to find or replace gears. That could be a hassle. That is timed to the engine, so when I put it back together, I'm going to have to be sure and get that timed. I haven't pulled the liners yet. If you can see it, you can see the crosshatch marks down at the bottom, kinda, but up in the middle it's pretty worn. Anyway, got to get some stuff kind of organized around here. Pulled the cam out. And I do have a mess. Cam bearings look, I mean, they look like they were always just a copper color, so. But I'll measure those, we'll see what they look like. I've got to pull this ring off of this to get that out. Oil pump, I'll probably go through it, kind of see what it might need. New ones are available, but they're probably made in China, like, you know, Jeff Anderson. I may send it to Jeff Anderson's place to get it rebuilt by him before I put it put it in there and run it. But yeah, I'll be interested to get these liners popped loose. So far, I don't really see any red flags. I don't see anything that's like, this is a bad idea to rebuild this motor. Of course, well, I think this dozer was built in 1979. I think this is a 1979 model dozer, so it got ran till 84. At least that's when those bearings were made. It could have been that those bearings were on a shelf for 10 years. So, but I do know that it was rebuilt at one time, because you couldn't go back in time and put 1984 bearings in a 1979 dozer. So I really don't know what year they rebuilt it, but at some point it got rebuilt. I know that. And that's a pretty good lifespan, if you ask me, for, I mean, even if those were on the shelf 10 years and it got built in 94, you know, this is 2021. So I think if it hadn't got sanded, I don't know the history on it. It might have got overheated. I don't know. I really don't know the history on it, so I can't really say. Yeah, anyway, who knows? Wish it could talk. It'd probably tell me a thing or two. But I think she's going to run even better with a little more compression, a little less oil consumption. Okay, this is really, really bad. I mean, this is my #1 main bearing bottom. I haven't got the crank out, so I don't know what the tops look like, but this is really bad. I mean, it's flaked off. Pieces of bearing are gone. Not a good sign. The next one back looks a little better. The next one back is not good. That's actually the center one. And then this is the one that went here. And then this is our thrust bearing, the main back one. So, got a bad feeling about the first journal on the crankshaft. This thing's probably going to have to be turned, I think. It looks like it. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe not. Get this thing out of here and measure it. At this point, I believe I'm going to go with the idea that I probably need to get the crankshaft turned. And probably going to take my rods with me to the machine shop and have them go ahead and put the bushings in them, or at least check them. They may not need bushings, I don't know, but I'm figuring by the amount of dirt this thing's ingested, it's probably going to need it's going to need some attention. So anyway, dang it. Things were looking good. The rod bearings, I mean, fairly normal. I mean, they're not great. I mean, they're not great, but you know, they were fairly smooth. But this one here has got me wondering why, what the heck, what causes material to flake off. And I don't know how well you can see that. But it's like there's just pieces of it missing. I did notice some pieces of junk in the suction screen. I haven't really dug into this. I kind of got it fixed where you can't really dig into it, but it needs cleaned out for sure. Anyway, yeah, lots of fun. This is what the cylinder head looked like. I haven't cleaned it up at all. It's just, this is the way it looks. Kind of normal carbon. I've noticed it's white on the exhaust valves. I believe that's exhaust, yeah. All consistent. Everything looks about the same. And if you like your pistons sanded, I have a pretty good set for you here. I'd sell you pretty darn cheap. I believe these are probably toast. With the price of an engine kit, there's really no point in even measuring or looking at, I mean, look at that. That's awful. But there's no point in even looking at that saying, can I save that? No, probably not. Cylinder bores, same way, rebuild kit comes with new ones. I just got to pull the old ones out. Okay, so I got one cylinder liner out. I'm really surprised at how clean the outside of this liner is. Usually a diesel engine will have cavitation here. I can't see any. The liner itself is worn out, I believe. It's getting a new one. But what I did, I had this disc that was close to size, and I went ahead and turned the landing on it. That way it will fit, not tight, but it'll kind of lip inside the liner. And then I've got another plate here that I use. I've got just standoff bolts. And I don't like beating liners out of an engine. I mean, I was always taught to pull them with a puller. This is another liner puller that I built for an 855 Cummins, and this is really crude, but it worked. But basically, this is the size of a Cummins 855. I just ground a little landing on each end of this bar, welded a nut on it, and used the same type of setup to pull. Used that to pull the liners out of the Kenworth back 20 years ago. Still got that. I was going to build one of those, and I came up with this, and I'm like, that'd be kind of neat. But this is not that neat, because when you go to put it in, it doesn't actually fit between the main bearing caps, or main bearing bosses. So what you got to do is kind of snake it in there like that, and then it falls out of place. It would be easier if I had the engine on a stand sitting vertical, but at this point I figured it's just 4 liners. It ain't that big a deal. I'll get them out of there. So anyway, I'll try to set you up here where you can see what's happening, maybe. Just got to be sure the standoff bolts don't fall in a hole for like a head bolt hole, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like that one just fell in the water jacket. So it's a little bit awkward sitting like this. It would be easier if it was vertical, like really easy. So set that up like that. And we will use the force of an impact wrench. Problem is, this rod's spinning, so I'm going to have to hold it. Now my pliers are stuck. You can see that wasn't exactly the best idea in the world. But oh, it took 30 minutes to come up with it, so. Be better. Actually, this design here was a lot better because it wouldn't spin. another liner. Like I say, it's not that bad. Only 2 to go. But yeah, these things are really, really clean on the water side. That's really surprising. I'm really impressed with that. I can't believe. I don't know. I'll clean these up, see if there's any date codes or anything on these, but the more I look at this engine, the more I think it was built pretty well. Forward, Frankie. Forward. Not so bad, not so bad. The liners are out. Pretty much everything in the engine is out. I got to pull the I just can't believe there's no cavitation whatsoever on these engines. That's a pretty beefy cylinder liner. And the amazing thing is they did this with one O-ring at the bottom. There's only one. Most diesel engines I've seen that are sleeved have multiple. A lot of them, like a 855 Cummins, will have several of them inside, or actually in the liner itself. But usually at least 2 or 3 of them in there, I believe, if I remember right. But anyway. Different engine, a little different than I've ever worked on. But here's the deal. I could probably repower it with a Cummins. I'd have to do some flywheel work to get the torque converter on it. But other than that, it'd be pretty simple. The big issue I've got with that is the money. You can't find a good 4BT for less than about $8 grand. Otherwise, you're buying one you know nothing about. You might be into it. It may have been sanded. Who knows? So if you buy a used engine, you need to rebuild it. So you're going to buy an engine, then rebuild it, and then do the machine work. So I think at this point, unless the machine shop tells me something I really don't want to hear, what I'm thinking is we're going to stick with the noose. Seems to be a pretty solid little chunk of steel. I'd be interested. They're the same cubic inches as a 4BT Cummins. They're a 3.9 liter, both of them. So I'd be interested to see the weight difference between a 4BT and I'd almost bet you this one's heavier. I mean, check out them rods. Look at them dudes. Lots of beef. Now, I know the Cummins, you know, it could put out a lot more horsepower, but I really don't need 250 horsepower out of a dozer. And most of those high horsepower ratings, that's for trucks. Trucks and construction equipment are different horsepower. If you put a 250 horsepower 4BT in this dozer, not only would you tear the dozer up, you'd probably tear the engine up as well. Okay, so after going to all the trouble of rigging up a puller for this, I realized that about all you got to do is just kind of tap on it and it comes loose. But that goes on the end of the crankshaft, along with there was an O-ring sitting under there to seal everything up. But what that it doesn't have a key, but it has a dowel pin. Dowel pin goes into the gear, and that keeps everything in time with your harmonic balancer. Has a dowel as well that keeps everything lined up. But the way that works is this forces pressure against the clamp that clamps everything together. So with that being said, this crank I believe is ready to go to the machine shop. I may want to take this to the machine shop and see if they want to just see what they say about it, if they want to clean it up or well, you know, either clean it up or maybe they'll say, hey, let's just leave it. That is my plan. So the plan is to take it diesel machine in Oklahoma City. They're the ones that did the Kenworth 20 years ago, and I think they do pretty good work, because a lot of the shops I deal with say that's the place to go in Oklahoma City. So you guys may have a different place or a better place. I'm not saying they're the only place, but it's just the ones that I've heard about. So anyway, I need to kind of study the balancer timing mark. I believe it's right there. And my balancer, I need to go through and check it and make sure it's measuring out the specs. They are available. There's parts places that still sell the balancer, not the harmonic balancer, but the actual engine balancer. It's kind of strange to me that they'd still make that one but not the other one. But the specs in the book, I think it's probably going to pass. I could be wrong though. We'll see. Anyway, that's where we're at today. Okay, I got the balancer over here on the table. I want to show you something. This is the O-ring that seals. This is the oil flow that goes from the oil pump, comes in through here, goes up to feed the motor or the engine. That's the O-ring. Get some ASMR there. I think she's cooked. What do you think? Yep, time for a rebuild. You know, sometimes you don't realize what an engine has in it that could fail, like those O-rings, those seals. In my experience, with age, everything starts leaking. But anyway, that's just my experience.